Yo, what's going on, guys? It's J-Mass, and I'm back again with another dope New England adventure. You know, I'm really excited because this is an abandoned place that I've been aware of for quite some time now. I just haven't had a chance to get over here until today, and I'm going to be bringing you guys along for the journey. So yeah, let's get started. It's going to be a dope one. But as you can see right now, I'm currently in the middle of the woods walking along a public trail. This is the Tidal Marsh Trail, located in the town of North Haven, Connecticut, just north of the city of New Haven. And as the name suggests, there's actually a tidal marsh located right nearby me. It's actually really scenic and beautiful. But this trail that I'm taking actually leads us to today's abandoned location, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard. Now, at one point, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard was one of the biggest and busiest rail yards, not just here in New England, but in the United States as a whole. And it especially peaked in usage during both World Wars. Now, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard was built by the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad during the 1890s, but it opened up for use in 1894. Now, as I mentioned, it received major usage during both World War I and World War II. It was heavily modernized in the 1920s, but unfortunately, after World War II, usage of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard began to decline, and between the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of issues, ranging from bankruptcy to relocation to closure. Now today, most of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard is closed and abandoned. There are actually some remnants that are still used today. Some trains still utilize the Cedar Hill Rail Yard, but most of it is abandoned, and we're gonna be checking out the abandoned portions of this massive rail yard. And I really mean massive, it's huge. It is a huge place. But I'm gonna take you guys along for the journey. I'm really excited to see the Cedar Hill Rail Yard here in North Haven, Connecticut. It's a place I've been wanting to check out for years now. But anyways, guys, my name's been J-Mass. If you love urbex, checking out abandoned places, traveling New England, that's my specialty because I do it all the time on this channel. So feel free to subscribe to the channel. Or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But yeah, let's get going and check out the Cedar Hill Rail Yard here in North Haven, Connecticut, right nearby the beautiful Tidal Marsh. Check this out, guys. We found our very first remnant here at the Cedar Hill Rail Yard. Now, I don't know exactly what this was used for or what it is, but I can already tell it's some sort of tunnel. But let's check this out. It looks like it might be a tunnel. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. It is a tunnel. Pretty small one, but a cool tunnel nonetheless. Though I just realized I did forget my flashlight, which is kind of annoying. Figures, but I'll go through there in a second. Did just want to show you that. That's pretty cool. This might be another tunnel here, although I think this is more of like a drainage pipe for water. It looks like it's kind of dry right now, but I assume this is probably some sort of stream or brook that filters through here. Yeah, look at this. I believe this is some sort of sewer or drainage pipe. A lot of stuff here though, pretty cool. You can probably hear my echo though, check this out. Yo, what's going on, guys? It's J-Mass. I always love doing that. Pretty cool though. In a minute, I'll turn my flashlight on and then we'll check out the upper tunnel, but I'm not gonna go super deep in this one. I believe this is just a sewer or drainage pipe type thing, and it also looks kind of dangerous, but pretty cool though. All right, guys, let's check out this tunnel, see what's in here. I do apologize again in advance. I didn't bring my normal flashlight, so the lighting might be kind of poor in this video clip, but should be fine. Doesn't look like it's too long of a tunnel. But as I make my way through, I'm just gonna give a little more detail on the early days of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard, and throughout the duration of the video, I'll go into more depth about its history. But as I mentioned earlier, in the early 1890s, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard was constructed by the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad. It opened up for operations in 1894. And, you know, I should mention that the early days of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard are nothing compared to its World Wars era. Like, basically from 1917 to about the 1950s, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard was a major, important rail yard. But the early days, basically from 1894 to 1917, it was a lot smaller. The rail yard wasn't that big. It only handled a couple hundred train cars at a time. There was also a really deadly collision here in 1904, resulted in 1 death and numerous injuries. So the Cedar Hill Rail Yard isn't what it's really known for in the early days of its operations. It was really around the time of World War I when the Cedar Hill Rail Yard truly blossomed into something major. But pretty cool though, we're gonna keep on going. I do have to say though, the Tidal Marsh Trail here is absolutely gorgeous. There's a lot of beautiful scenery. Check this out, guys. Got some train cars right here. And of course, the railroad tracks. Looks like the first that we're gonna be seeing today. Pretty dope. So I do wanna mention that while I don't know if this particular portion right here is abandoned, I did mention earlier that some parts of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard are actually still open and in operation today. Not all of it is decommissioned and abandoned. I should actually mention that CSX Transportation actually purchased most of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard in 1999, and they've owned and operated it ever since. And there are still trains that utilize the Cedar Hill Rail Yard. I actually heard a train earlier when I was walking along the Tidal Marsh Trail. So the Cedar Hill Rail Yard definitely is still in use, but a good chunk of it is completely abandoned and decommissioned. And I'm gonna be trying to check out most of the abandoned portions today. But I did just want to show you this, pretty cool. Just got some random train cars sitting still on the rail lines right here. Just don't know if these are active or not, but pretty cool. So one thing that's kind of cool is as you make your way along the trail, you stumble upon things like this. As you can see, got some more abandoned remnants right here. Not really sure what this piece of machinery was, but obviously it's heavily tagged with graffiti. I wonder if that's actually maybe a railroad switch. Not really sure, but. And then the other thing that's cool and almost kind of surreal to see are these abandoned railroad tracks just completely laying dormant and decommissioned here in the middle of the woods. Obviously you can see that it's completely overgrown with plants, vegetation, all that stuff. You just have the abandoned railroad tracks sitting in the middle of the woods. It's kind of weird to see. It gives it a very eerie feeling. But anyways, I'm gonna keep continuing down this trail. There's a really cool abandoned spot here at Cedar Hill Rail Yard that I want to show you guys. So as I make my way over, I'll get a little bit more in depth with some of the history. So as I mentioned, Cedar Hill Rail Yard really saw its peak during both World Wars, especially World War II. Now obviously from the 1890s to 1917, the rail yard still operated, but it wasn't that big. But by 1917, which was the year the United States entered World War I, the government increased its budget and the Cedar Hill Rail Yard expanded rapidly to make way for the wartime effort. And then in World War II, it increased even more. It was actually around World War II where the Cedar Hill Rail Yard was handling about 5,000 train cars a day. So it was an extremely crucial rail yard during both World Wars. And the Cedar Hill Rail Yard serviced many different parts of Connecticut, not just New Haven, but Hartford, Bridgeport, Middleton, even New York City. Check this out, guys. This is pretty cool. Got some ruins of an old foundation right here. Looks like some sort of structure was once here. You even got the chimney. Pretty dope. I don't actually know what this building was, but you know, figured we'd take a second, check it out. But this is really dope. I do have to admit, during my research into the Cedar Hill Rail Yard, I didn't see any pictures or images of this specific building right here. There are a couple abandoned buildings I want to check out, but I didn't even know this one existed. So this is kind of an interesting find. Look at this though. This is dope. Of course, you got the chimney right there. Some decent graffiti. And then you have an abandoned machine. I don't know what machine this was. It looks like maybe some sort of boiler or steam engine, but pretty dope. And then a lot of destruction back there. Really cool ruins. Yeah, I don't know what this is. I'll try to do some research after the fact, and if I find out, I'll include below. But yeah, pretty interesting. I wasn't expecting to stumble upon this. Hey guys, check it out. We found it. This is one of the abandoned structures I was most excited to see. This is the switch tower. Basically operated the train tracks on the Cedar Hill Rail Yard, switched them in different directions. So if you had a train coming down into the rail yard, this tower would operate the switches and move the tracks in different directions depending on where the train was going. But pretty dope to see in person. Look at this. Of course, you got a bit of tagging and graffiti on the base of it. But when I did walk around, it looked like there was actually a way up. So I'm kind of interested about that. Now, here's the slight issue with this place. Let me get over on this side right here. While there is an entrance inside, as you can see, I walked in and it is just swarmed with wasps. There's actually a wasp's nest in there. You can actually see some of the bugs in there right now. So I don't want to go too far in, but I will peek in really briefly. Jeez, so many bugs. But yeah, check that out. The base of the old abandoned switch tower here at the Cedar Hill Rail Yard in North Haven, Connecticut. Pretty dope. And then of course, as I mentioned, you do have this thing right here, a ladder going up to the top. Let's see if we can do that. Is it sturdy? Yep. All right, make our way through. Let me reposition my camera. So right now we are heading up the ladder. Wow, this thing shakes a lot once you get farther up. Not too bad though. Hopefully there aren't any insects or wasps up here. Check this out, guys. This is the very top of the old abandoned switch tower. This is dope as fuck. Bunch of random stuff up here, nothing too crazy, but I want to see what the view looks like. Yeah, obviously a lot of this place is just overgrown with trees, bushes, plants, but you do have to understand when this place was in operation, it didn't look like this. It was probably just a vast, many acres of land that was just completely barren and empty because this switch tower had to be able to see the railroad. You had to figure out what direction the tracks were going in. So basically right in front of us is where the railroad would have been. And the operator who was sitting up here would have seen, which direction the train cars are coming in from. Pretty dope though. Now the other thing that's kind of cool, you can actually see from up here, check that out. That's an old abandoned light tower right over there. And as I was walking around the Cedar Hill Rail Yard, you see a lot of these rail towers. And today they actually house big nests for birds like falcons and hawks and eagles. A lot of predatory birds use those light towers as nests. It's kind of cool. Finally, I found it. After searching this whole entire property for so long, I finally found the main event. Now this is an abandoned structure that I've really been excited to check out for ages now. And you'll see why in a second, but I do just want to direct your attention to the structural integrity of this place. Look at it. It's basically just the metal skeleton of a building that once stood here. I don't know what building this once was. Probably some sort of maybe train repair depot or storage house. Not entirely sure, but this is what I want to direct your attention to. Now you'll see in front of me, it just looks like a bunch of random scrap wood kind of put together. Like, what is this thing? Well, why don't I show you from the front? Well. If it isn't the world's largest land carnivore. Check this out, guys. A statue of a polar bear. Isn't that so dope? And as you can clearly see, this polar bear is basically fastened together with debris from this very building you're standing in. So this is like a completely original sculpture, utilizing all of the recycled materials that are found in this abandoned structure. Now it's pretty cool. This polar bear was actually created by New Haven artist M.J. D'Angelo. And I believe he made it not too long ago. I think it was in 2020 when he actually built this thing. Now I've seen countless pictures and videos of this polar bear, so I'm really excited to see it in person, but check that out. M.J. D'Angelo's polar bear sculpture. Again, I believe it's only like 3 years old. Pretty cool. And then of course, this is the rest of the structure right here. It's a pretty damn big structure. Although obviously it's just the skeleton of a building that once stood here. Really no roof or ceiling anymore. Why don't we take a look for a second to see what's going on? I am really curious what this building was. I couldn't really figure it out. But I'll try to include below if I figure out what building this was or what its main functions were. I have to say though, this reminds me a lot of Iron Horse Park in Billerica. That's actually another abandoned rail yard I visited on the channel a couple months ago. And this kind of reminds me of the main building at Iron Horse Park. So potentially it served the same function, which was a train repair depot. It's kind of what this might be. Pretty damn cool. And of course, the monolith himself, the 14-foot tall polar bear sculpture. So sick. If you guys are wondering how big this polar bear sculpture is compared to me, well, check this out. This polar bear is 14 feet tall, and I'm only 5'7". So look at this thing, it's monolithic. But yeah, shout out to MJ D'Angelo. This is such a sick sculpture. Again, I've known about this thing for years, but it looks so dope, and it's really cool to see it, you know, in person. But it's really big, super cool. Yeah, that was pretty fucking cool, guys. That was the iconic polar bear sculpture here at the Cedar Hill Rail Yard in North Haven, Connecticut. I gotta say, I'm a little starstruck. I've been looking at this thing for years now, wanting to visit, and here I am, and you know, I'm at a loss for words. That's what I was most excited for on this trip, to be honest. But I gotta say though, the building around here is still pretty damn cool, and it looks like there's a little bit more to see. I was looking up here and it looked like there were some more remnants we can check out. But I do have to say, you know, some of the machinery here, you know, the random equipment, machinery, it is pretty unique. Ew, look at that water. That's some disgusting foul water. It has a really unique vibe though. I kind of like the look of this place. It's like really apocalyptic, you know what I mean? Like it feels like there was like a disaster here, and this is just the remnants of what's left behind. Pretty damn cool. You know, this is random, but I do have to say that polar bear sculpture really makes me want to have a polar seltzer right now. I keep thinking about that, like a polar seltzer would be fitting. Yeah, this is cool. I think this might be the end of it over here, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, got some random scrap metal. Actually, this scrap metal you're looking at, like basically these boards right here, that's what D'Angelo used when constructing that sculpture. He used this type of material. It is kind of cool that rather than letting this place just completely decay and deteriorate over time, it was at least recycled to produce something artistic. That is really cool to me. But I think that actually might be it over here, I'm pretty sure. Let's see what's beyond this trail. Yeah, not too much over here. Although you can actually see more remnants of the rail lines. Check that out. There's an abandoned railroad right in the middle of the woods, completely overtaken by nature. You see it just disappears in all those ferns. You know, when I see stuff like that, it always makes me realize how feeble our attempts are to be, remembered. It's like a lot of stuff that humans build and create eventually will get overtaken by nature, reclaimed by the earth. But it's still really cool though, seeing remnants like this. Pretty damn cool. Looks like there's also some more miscellaneous scrap metal over here. I just want to check though, because I don't know if it's just metal or another structure. This possibly could have been another structure at one point. Probably another skeletal thing like we just saw. That one right over there. Pretty interesting. What about this one? Yeah, this was definitely another structure. That's a door right there. I mean, I don't know what this would have been. Maybe some sort of like shed or something. It's probably just part of that building we saw. But this one is in worse shape. You can see it's completely collapsed. There's like almost nothing left, you know what I mean? This one is just completely destroyed and collapsed. I mean, at least that one is still standing, but kind of a shame. Jeez, just tripped over that tree. And there's some more of the rail line. So some of you guys might be wondering, when did operations start to decline here at the Cedar Hill Rail Yard? What ultimately led to a lot of its closure? Well, as I mentioned, it really peaked during World War II. During the wartime effort, there was a lot of use of the rail yard. But after the war ended, trains start to come less and less. And I think the main catalyst for that was people began to use roads for transportation, especially like trucking. So railroads weren't used as much. Now in 1961, the North Haven Railroad actually filed for bankruptcy. That was another major catalyst that seriously impacted the Cedar Hill Rail Yard. And then the other major one was in 1968, Selkirk, New York actually created a new rail yard, and a lot of operations that, existed at the one here in North Haven actually moved to the Selkirk, New York rail yard instead. And then throughout the 70s, there were a ton of changing hands, a lot of different railroad companies took over. It was basically a very uncertain future for the Cedar Hill Rail Yard. But since 1999, the CSX Railroad has operated here, and while train traffic and operations are severely reduced, during their peak from World War II, there are still operations here. It's just not what it used to be. But I would say really throughout the 60s and 70s, that's when the decline really sped up. And now it is what it is today. Most of it's abandoned, decommissioned, and closed, but there are a few active portions here and there. So this is pretty cool. Looks like we actually have another abandoned switch tower right here, kind of like the one we saw earlier. Although this one is shrouded in a lot more plants and trees than the other one, but still pretty damn cool. I want to see if this one also has an entrance that we can get in. Oh, barrel right there. Oh yeah, there is. This is the entrance right here from the base of the switch tower. Thankfully, not many insects here. That other one was like filled with so many wasps. But this is cool. A lot of dope graffiti here too. So this is the base right here. And of course, I think we're gonna head up now, so let's do that. Let me just get prepared to, one-hand it. But yeah, we're gonna head up this switch tower, see what's going on. I do have a feeling though that compared to the other one, this one is not gonna have as much to see just because, it's covered by so many trees. Like, it's in a really secluded area. Yeah, you can already see covered in vines. Just goes to show you how overgrown this place has gone since it was abandoned. Crazy shit. Pretty cool though. It is interesting to see. Yeah, the other abandoned switch tower. I did just want to take a brief moment to show you guys the stunning natural beauty here in North Haven. What you're seeing right in front of you is the Quinnipiac River, and beyond that are all of these salt marshes. This is actually right along the Tidal Marsh Trail that I've been taking. And the Cedar Hill Rail Yard actually ran alongside the Quinnipiac River. I mean, this is a super important river in the area. But again, absolutely gorgeous. Look at these salt marshes. Just wanted to show you that. Thought it was really beautiful. So there's a couple more things I want to show you guys before I leave the area. Firstly, you got these huge tires just randomly sitting here. Looks like they got plants growing out of them. It's almost like some kind of weird flower pots. You know what I mean? But yeah, I got those big ass tires just sitting there. But this is the cool thing. So you guys will remember, throughout the duration of the video, there were just numerous abandoned railroad tracks running through the woods, overtaken by nature. Well, here you got like a bunch of them in a row, which is kind of cool. So this must have been one of the major rail yard sections right here, because you have a ton of abandoned railroad tracks now covered in plants and ferns. And what is this, like 5 or 6 of them? There's like a bunch right here. It's kind of cool. But again, this is just a remnant of what the Cedar Hill Rail Yard once looked like. Obviously, there's a huge active part still, and a lot of the decommissioned part, is still salvageable. But this is like completely reclaimed by nature. It's wild. Look at this shit. Now, I do want to see if there's anything we can check it over here. I don't know how well you can hear it on this video, but there's actually the sounds of a running train right now. So that railroad that we saw earlier today, I believe that was actually an active railroad, because I can hear a train running right now. So I kind of want to see if we can see it from here. Yeah, check this out. This is the active railroad right here. Obviously, because it's active, it's very dangerous, so I'm not going to walk on it, and I would highly recommend you don't do the same if you come here. But I will just take a brief look. Yeah, I can't see the train, but I heard it. It sounded very close. But yeah, this right here, I believe, is the active portion of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard here in North Haven, Connecticut. So yeah, old over there and new right here. Kind of cool to think about and see in person. Hey, thank you guys for joining me. I've been J-Mass as always, and this has been another dope New England adventure. So today we checked out the abandoned ruins and remnants of the Cedar Hill Rail Yard here in North Haven, Connecticut. And it was really cool because there was a lot to see here. I mean, you had, of course, the polar bear sculpture, but you had the switch towers, huge light posts, railroad tracks, a lot of cool stuff here. It's kind of interesting because the Cedar Hill Rail Yard was at one point one of the busiest and biggest rail yards, not just here in New England and Connecticut, but in the United States. It was crucial. It was built in the early 1890s. It first saw operation in 1894, but by 1917, around the time the United States entered World War I, that's when it really began to reach its full potential. And by World War II, it was extremely important. It was actually at its peak of operation, receiving about 5,000 train cars a day. But unfortunately, after World War II, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard began to decline in operations and activity, especially during the 50s. And between the 60s and 70s, it was riddled with many issues: bankruptcy, rail yards moving to other locations, changing hands between different companies multiple times. But today it's owned by the CSX Railroad, which basically still operates trains today. But we mostly saw the abandoned stuff, and there was a lot of cool stuff to see. And I hope you guys liked it because Cedar Hill Rail Yard is a place I'd want to see for years. But anyways, guys, my name's J-Mass. If you love abandoned exploration, checking out cool sites, urbex, New England travel, well, feel free to subscribe to the channel, or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But yeah, I've been J-Mass, the Cedar Hill Rail Yard here in North Haven, Connecticut, and of course the Tidal Marsh Trail, which has been an absolutely beautiful trail to walk along, especially with the Tidal Marsh and the Quinnipiac River behind me. But I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya. Fucking bugs.